Sound speeds, and welcome to the 8-year anniversary from the first time I released a video here on sound speeds, and it happens to be a reaction video. So let's waste no more time, get right into our content. Incognito browser and okay, pause, and let's go to default view here. So let's see what we're dealing with here. This is the Brian Hansen YouTube channel, which currently has 360 subscribers. And this video is called Get the Best Sound on Location Every Time, Tips from a Freelance Audio Guy, Mix Pre 10.2. I should just like on general principle because I'm not signed in, therefore can't click like. Okay, well, this video has 1.3 thousand views and was released 4 months ago as of the time of this recording on February 18th, 2025, and he lives in Indianapolis. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this back to big screen, and we're going to watch this video for the first time together.
Have you ever wanted to get better at booming audio?
Always.
On your jobs?
Sure.
I have 2 gigs I recently did. One was for a narrative film, and the other one was for a corporate job.
Okay, narrative films and corporate jobs are 2 totally separate creatures. On a narrative film, you watch a rehearsal, you have hours to light, you have different setups and that kind of thing, and you break it down into pieces. On corporate gigs, you might talk through what's going to happen according to the day, but you may do things in segments, but you may also do one entire scene in one take. And you have to get it right the first time. On a feature film, you might have a chance to get a few takes of it. Even if they don't print the take that you did best sound on, you still have multiple takes. There's going to be ADR much more readily available, things like that. It's going to be one of those things where you have to get it right always in sound every single take. But on a narrative feature, you have a few takes to do it. On a freelance corporate type job, a lot of the times you have to prepare and go ahead and get things ready to go, because once the show starts, there is no more, okay, well, pause for a second. I got to put a plant over there. I didn't realize they were going there. So you have to plan in advance. Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen a breakaway like that in a long time. So that must be the camera up there. And then there's the boom over here. So he is tethering by going out here. This is a cable that's going to his bag. So he's wearing a bag around his chest, and then out of that goes this duplex that goes to the cable. And it's called a breakaway because he can pull down right here, and that cable will disconnect. So it would disconnect right there. So he can literally run with the camera and break sound, which, is the reason why you have a separate recorder on you at all times. But that's for recording sound to camera. It used to be back in the day that post would try to use the audio that was on the camera, forgetting the fact that there was a couple of, frames at the very minimum delay because of the processing on the camera. So you would record an audio track, send it to the camera, but they would try to use it. They shouldn't. They should never have done that, especially when you were doing hops. We used to do hops where you would put an IFB going out of a little RCA that broke out into a 1/4-inch mono. And then we'd run that in on the camera, and then they would say, we lost sound, when they would put it together in the, for the dailies, they'd say, we lost sound, halfway through the take. And then it didn't come back on until, the next take. And then it was the same exact way. It jumped out at the exact same time. We're like, really? Because, our tracks sound great. And then they would say, but it cut out. And it's like, are you listening on the camera, or are you listening to our track that we submitted to them on a DVD-R, which was what we did back then, DVD minus Rs. And they would say, no, we're listening to it. And we're like, yeah, I don't think so. Put the CD in, put the DVD in, and then tell us if the audio is still not there. And then they would say, no, it's fine. We're going to try to use the audio on the camera. It's like, get the good quality sound. Don't use the stuff that's on the camera. Camera preamps, they're garbage. They're not designed for sound. Cameras are designed for the image.
One of the biggest considerations that you need to worry about when you're booming audio, and this is regardless of what microphone you're using, is you want to worry about position.
Okay, he's right. Position is key. I don't know what he's doing there, because the guy is wearing a helmet. So he has a visor that comes in from the top, and then he has basically this little bitty window that he can hear the guy clearly. So he might be playing because the guy is speaking and his head would be here, and so the audio would pull up right here in front. If it were me, though, I would probably get the boom a little bit more in front and try to scoop a little bit more from this angle instead, because you want to try to, like right now, he's booming the top of this guy's head. And he might be getting, decent off the surface of the vehicle, but I would still try to cue the microphone back a little bit more at the guy who's talking, so that way it would sound a little less muffled maybe. And I imagine this room is kind of noisy, but anyway, I'm not there. I'm not listening. He's listening, and he's the guy that's in charge for placing this microphone. So for all I know, this could be bad advice I'm giving. It could be that he had already listened to it and it ended up being the proper angle. They also might not be talking.
Want to get the microphone as close to the subject as possible.
Not always. If it's a noisy environment, yes, signal to noise ratio. But if you get the microphone too close, depending on the kind of microphone it is, it could also sound too bass heavy, and it could also pick up too many reflections. If it's like a shotgun microphone and it's flat surfaces, it could pick up way too much reflection, or it could even get like overly enhanced bass if it's picking up the reflected bass or the chest. Like the dude his face was right here at the edge of the car. If his chest cavity was coming up there and you put the shotgun microphone right on there, it could sound way too chesty. It could sound way too bassy.
Also, while working together with the DP to make sure that the microphone's not in the shot, you don't want to point it directly at their mouth normally. You want to point it between their mouth and their chest.
Okay, that is a particular preference he has. Some sound mixers will actually tell you to aim at their forehead. It just depends on the person and the sound they're going for. Some microphones with some voices sound perfectly fine if you put it right to the top of the forehead and you just tell them to boom the normal way. If you aim more at the chest, what you're doing is you're going to have to get the microphone more in front of the person and aim back, not necessarily at the mouth, but at the chest. And by doing that, you're going to get a little farther away. But also, you're going to be trying to get more of a mix of the chest and the mouth in there. But honestly, you're not going to really have an issue if you aim for just the mouth. Just the same way as that people use the 416 for voiceover. That thing is a very narrow pattern. And if the microphone is right here and it's just nailing the mouth, this is where the detail is coming out. The chest and bass and stuff like that is not necessarily anything that they're overly worried about. As long as you pick the face up, that's where the detail is. Everything is going to balance just fine with regards to the sound coming up from the chest and mixing in with the mouth and the sound from the nose and the teeth and the tongue, all that kind of stuff. With the natural amount of bass that's coming up and mixing with the voice, it's going to sound just fine. It doesn't need to necessarily aim right at the chest.
I know this probably goes without saying, but you need to be listening on headphones.
Absolutely.
You are booming audio.
He's right.
I don't recommend ever that you're running a boom and not wearing headphones. So the corporate
That's right.
job that
is 100% correct. A lot of the times people will actually, they'll say that if you're in like Europe, and some people think it's an East Coast thing, but it's definitely not. They'll say, Europeans, at least they didn't used to always wear headphones. And there was a couple of people in some of the forums I would debate with 15 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. And they would say, no, I don't like to wear headphones. It's the sound mixer's job too. I'm like, when they say speed, how do you know on set? If I'm booming someone from a hotel room and they're standing on the balcony, how in the world are you going to be able to hear the same sound that comes to that microphone is picking up? If you put the boom out the window and you're trying to cue it around and you're trying to pick up the mouth and you're booming from behind, how are you going to know the right angle if you can't hear the person's mouth? You could be booming the top of their head, or it could be off axis. If the person tips their head down, you're not going to know that. And then you're going to have to go and talk to the sound mixer after the take and say, did that sound good? No, you were off axis. Well, why was that? Well, you probably weren't in front of them enough. What if you happen to be angling over the top of the building and you cue the microphone and it just happens to be pointing at an air conditioning unit? Or it happens to be pointing at a traffic jam. And if you were to, instead of going this way, you were to go this way or this way instead, it would have sounded better. You can help dial this in better if you're wearing headphones. I can't stand it when people say, don't wear headphones. That's the sound mixer's job. No, it's your job. You're in the sound department and these are your tracks too.
Is one where we were in a very noisy environment. This happens frequently with this client I work with where we end up in loud environments. We end up
I like his relaxed,
in a room where
his relaxed, the way he's holding the boom. It's very relaxed. It's just he's holding it from down low. Notice there's a low angle. His hands are up here. Its boom is going up here, but the framing, you can already tell how it's tight. It's you know the aspect ratio of the camera. The camera is cutting off the shot probably right about there, and his boom is out of that, especially because you see how it's sighting up to her shoulder. So it's going to go, the shot's going to go right up here. My straight line is not so straight. And then it's going to go over there, and she's going to have a little bit more nose room on the left-hand side of the frame, which is what you're seeing here. And because of that, it's a very well-framed shot. I really like how he just is holding the boom in a relaxed way. He's not going to throw off his shoulders or his shoulder blades. Rotator cuff is going to be perfectly comfortable. It's great.
A shotgun mic is really...
Look at that, out of the shot. Even though he's coming in from very low. Dude is even sitting down back there. He is sitting down. The camera is above him. And I know he said get the microphone as close as possible. That is perfectly close. That's like, what, 6 inches over the top of her head? And this is the shot. He's sitting down and not even holding the boom like this while he's sitting down. He's sitting down and just kind of casually holding the boom up at an angle. He's doing that. And yet he's still managing, because he knows the frame, which is what he's talking about. He knows where the frame is, so he knows to keep the boom out of the frame, which is awesome.
Is really the only option in a loud environment, because the shotgun mic does the best job at isolating the voice away from the background noise.
Not necessarily. The boom might actually pick up more background noise. It's going to be, the microphone has lower background noise than the noise on a lav mic, true, but a lav has less of a pickup range. So if your sounds are farther away and they're very, very loud, the boom will probably pick those up easier, those sounds easier than the microphone on the wireless transmitters that the person's wearing will. So a lot of the times what will happen is post can easily scrub out a boom because there's a lot of headroom there. It's a good full fat signal that gives them less, when they use a lav, less room to actually play with that and try to dial out those sounds in post. Even though with modern technology, they're able to do some pretty amazing things. It's still easiest for them to do that in post with a boom. But if you're putting together a mixed track for like the dailies or for the customers to listen to, it may be that the noise floor is lower on the lav. So keep that in mind.
The deal with background noise is it's acceptable, and you shouldn't be trying to completely eliminate it. I just want to make sure the client knows that the background noise will be present.
Okay, yes and no. You obviously want to do your job and try to get rid of as much of it as possible. It doesn't need to be a completely sterile background, but it is helpful to have as much of the background noise eliminated as possible. That way, post has more room to dial in the sound the way they want it to be. They can EQ it if they want to. They can add processing if they want to. They can do whatever they need to make it sound as good as possible. The more background noises there are there, the more it's going to cut into the proper frequencies that they are going to need to modify and maybe try to use a plug-in on. And that could be a problem if the noises in the environment are too close to the frequencies that the person is actually talking in. So like if there was other frequencies that are exactly the same as my voice in the background, they might have conflict trying to dial in on my voice, because my voice is a mixture of a bunch of different frequencies. If you start dialing in on the same frequencies as the background noise, but not the rest of my voice could start to sound really weird. Like if there is a low rumble in the background and the few lows that I actually have in my voice, if those were conflicting and you start to process out those background noises, trying to get rid of the lows, my voice could start to sound very, very nasally, or it could sound like it's nothing but sibilance. I mean, it's not far away from nothing but sibilance now, but you want to try to preserve as much of the bass in my voice as you possibly can.
It's not like my system can completely remove it.
If your system isn't going to remove it. You have a mix pre system that might have the plugin that does noise reduction, but if you use noise reduction, you should also give them a track that is without. Now, you could say, well, the ISOs don't have noise reduction on there. True enough. But the thing is, what he said before is you don't want to you want the customer to be able to hear what the environment sounds like. And that's a very good point, because a lot of the times you're going to be in an environment and the customer is only going to be able to hear with their ears, and your ears have something called it connects to a part of your brain that actually is used to process the sound, called the pulvinar nuclei. It's part of the thalamus, and I have a video that talks about it, and I'll post it right there for you to check it out. But it is a thing called sensory gating, basically, your brain's ability to filter out things that are not important to you. And most people have to, if you're in the sound department, you have to untrain your ability to filter out those sounds. So a director won't necessarily hear those sounds. They put headphones on and suddenly they're hearing them all. And if you make the environment too sterile, they're going to think it was just absolutely perfect all the time, and they may not even wear headphones. Some people don't. Some people might put it on and say, oh yeah, this sounds great, and then not put it on. Or they might just do that for a bit because they want to make sure the sound department's good. And then when they change scenes, they won't ever listen to them again. But for the most part, directors do listen. And if there is a problem suddenly, what is that sound? What is that sound? There have been times that I have been part of sound departments that have tried to drive home the point that a particular sound is unacceptable, and production could get something shut down without even paying money for it. But they are choosing not to. They just want to shoot. So we have taken a lav mic, put it on the noisy source, and the mixer has not put it in the mix track, but brought it up just a little bit in the mix. Just the one that they're hearing. Not into the mix or anything that the actual recording would have, but they're putting it just a little bit in the headphones. So that way it would sound extra loud, and then say, wow, this sounds really, really bad. We need to get that sound cut off. And then they say, okay, first AD calls for it, and then it shuts right off. It's like, why couldn't you have done that before us having to make a point? Sometimes it happens though.
In a situation where you cannot separate the voices of the people that you're interviewing from the background noise that's in the room, you really need to be very specific with the client and make sure they know that this is a very challenging audio environment, and this may not be the best idea to shoot in this space.
He's 100% correct about that. Anytime there is something that is going to potentially cut too much in on the dialogue frequencies and you cannot address it, point it out to the director. Make sure the director is aware of it. The director, it may have been that there was a decision made last minute because of convenience, or let's just set up here. But if it's too noisy, don't be afraid to tell the director, if this is a bit noisy and it could present a problem for sound, and they say, okay, well, maybe we should do it over here, or maybe we should get rid of the background. So he's talking about background right there. There's also other times that there could be something that would make it work when it wouldn't normally. There was a TV show pilot that I was doing almost 10 years ago, and the actors were that we were shooting in the basement floor of a 10, 12 story building. And in this building, there was a water fountain. It was like one of those big water fountains that you could sit around and throw coins into. And the water fountain was not in the shot. They decided they were going to face the cameras away from the water fountain and try to get the actors a little bit farther away from the water fountain. But it was just so noisy and reverberant in there that it was killing us. So they were just like, yeah, is there anything we can do about the water fountain? Water fountain has to stay on. And then they looked at us and said, yeah, sorry, is there anything y'all can do? And one of the suggestions I had is I said, frame it into the shot. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, if you take the camera and move it around to the other side and you have it as a water fountain in the back, we hear it and we see it. We can hear things that we see. If we never know the water fountain's there, it's going to be like, what is this loud, annoying sound? But if we see it, we can hear it. So in the wide shots, we saw it and we heard it. As soon as we got in for the coverage, the water fountain wasn't in the shot, and we were able to back it farther away from the water fountain, and I was able to use a more directional type of angle with my microphone to dial out the sound and to reject out the sound of the water fountain a little bit better, and that was a big help. So doing something like that, where you see it and you hear it, you know what it is, therefore it's a lot more forgiven if there's nothing that can be done. Things like that are creative and they're good for production.
If at that point the client still wants to shoot, then that is their decision. But you just have to be very clear. If what you're hearing in the headphones is not good for them, that you just need to let them know. Okay.
Yeah, they have to sign off on it, basically.
It's fine, let's shoot here because this is the only option we have. Well, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what you do, because it's all about picture.
Which you should always be listening on the headphones. And you hear something, you need to speak up. Okay, you don't need to keep that information to yourself.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go along with your suggestion. It just means that you are making them aware, and then make notes to post also. As long as you make the director aware, if the director says we're going to go with this because we're losing the light, or because this location we only have for another 30 minutes and we were going to be shooting here for 6 hours, but it took 5 hours to light because we had to get the crane in and it was just a big hassle. We only have 30 minutes to shoot this, or something like that. There could be all kinds of different reasons, but as long as you make the director aware and they make that call, not you, there you go.
Respectfully, and just say, I think we're going to want to take that again because that door slammed right in the shot. Let's listen into some interview audio that I recently captured at this corporate event.
Okay.
So Six Sigma is something I've been interested in for a really, really long time. I actually learned of Six Sigma when I was in high school from a mentor. So it was something that I just really wanted to do.
So here's what the crowd sounded like in the room.
That would be like Walla. So like if you record Walla, or I have a video called Walla Walla, I think it is, where I talk about the proper way to record room noise for background or something like that, and you want to bring that up in the background, then you have to record it properly. And that's what he's probably doing, is recording it as Walla in the background. And the background sound, you want to try to, if you record a separate track of it, there's a particular technique to do it. Watch the video I pointed at. But if you are trying to eliminate it, you want to try to reject it out and see if people will work with you and try to talk as quietly as possible. If they won't, have them go away. They're not in this shot. We don't need to hear them. Ooh.
And then here's the audio from my microphone.
I see what he was doing.
Straight out of the mixer.
Super excited to be here for this graduation ceremony.
Okay, you heard the bass in that room, how much bass there was, just a natural background amount of bass. Most of the time, if you're in a big conference room or something like that, the bodies will absorb a lot of the mids and highs, but the bass frequencies are going to go in all directions, including through people, so you hear that more prominently. And the boom placement on her, there may have been a little bit of low-end EQ on this, because I'm not hearing the background rumble in the room nearly as much. And her voice, I'm sure, has a little bit more bass in it than what you're actually hearing. So to me, it sounds like there's a little bit of lows that have been removed from this track.
Celebrating with my sisters who also completed their Six Sigma certification.
She actually, now that I say that, now that I listen to her, her voice might sound natural. There might not be EQ in that. I may be mistaken on that. And in which case, he's rejecting nicely with the boom, and he's cueing a little bit more towards her and a little bit away from the room. The off-axis point on this microphone would probably be about 135 degrees, somewhere around there off-axis. So he could have gone more in front of her and cued harder back to get a little bit more of that rejection, that null area, but it sounded good.
The room was completely full behind us, but the microphone is doing a pretty good job of reducing that background.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Another thing I had to do on this job was I had to tap the podium. So I ended up using my passive mic splitter.
He's using, he has a flattened SM58, it looks like. And that one has taken a hit. It's fallen, and like it fell almost completely square, but he says he's using a passive mic splitter. And so it's going to split and probably go into his recorder and go into the room also, is what I would guess. So that way the same sound is going to be shared through their speaker system and through him. Let's see what he actually says, though. That's a speculation.
Input from the mic, and then send one output to the house, and then I take another output to my soundboard.
There you go.
That allows me to have a clean feed of the microphone. There's a lot of ways.
That's exactly it.
Tap a podium. Another option you can use is to take a wireless mic and leave it on the podium, just sort of near the podium. Picking up.
Yeah, you can do that. The other option I was going to suggest is that if you're using one Podium microphone, just use that, record it, and then take a line out of you to the board. So you can actually on the mix pre, you can route certain things. I don't actually know that he would have the outputs to route it on the mix pre like you could if it was another sound devices recorded like a Scorpio or if there was a Diva 24 or there was a Kantar. You would have the ability to take some of your outputs, like just have it be the Podium without any mixing, or you could add it on a mix, so it's pre-fade. Or post-fade rather. So that way you could adjust the level on it and then send it out to the house. So if it starts to whistle or whatever, you can bring it back down. So on the mix pre, I don't know that you'd necessarily have that. The only output that you might have that could do it would be the auxiliary out. And I don't know you'd want to take an unbalanced output to a house system.
Everything that's happening up there, I kind of use that as a last resort. If I can't split the mic.
He probably did the best choice for the situation.
The Six Sigma racial acquisition.
Oh, that sounds good.
So thank you all for all that you do. Hopefully you'll spread the word and you too will be sitting here with other.
Oh, he's doing a good job with this.
Lauren.
It's got good gain staging. It's got really good audio. And you see how she's kind of far away, but she's not really leaning in on the microphone. She's back a little ways, but he's not bringing it up too loud because it's a dynamic and he's got it angled up nicely where it's a cardioid. So the back of the room is going to be rejected out a little bit. If he wanted to, he could add in and bring up a little bit of the background noise during certain parts of it, and it would be just fine. It would sound really good. But the way he's got it is exactly the way you would want to record it if you're doing it. Gain stage it correctly, position the microphone correctly, and just use a good quality microphone to begin with.
And subscribe. I've been posting a lot of content where I take you behind the scenes of my freelance project.
All right, I'm going to bounce.
IndyCar through Fox Sports. Take you all behind the scenes of some look.
Okay, blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
Film shoot recently where we shot 2 short films in one day. Right away when I get on set, I am scanning all of the wireless.
I am going to say this real quick because I just jumped through his whole spiel about subscribing. If the rest of this video, we've only technically watched about the first 5 minutes of it, and this will be a long video, and I apologize about that. But if you enjoy what he is saying, I haven't really found anything wrong that he's saying. I think that he only has 360 subscribers. I'd say go pay him some love because he seems to be knowledgeable. He seems to know what he's doing, and his tips are good. So I don't really, at this point, think that there's a reason not to go there to subscribe to him if this is the kind of information that you like, because I think he's doing a good job. Where'd the sound go? Wait a minute. Oh, why are you muted all of a sudden? Did I hit a button?
Somebody. And I have this small scanner that I got on Amazon that I use to scan to see the different frequencies that I might need to work around.
Yeah.
I'll scan on my microphones. I use Sennheiser microphones. I'll scan for open frequencies.
They have a bunch of those things, and you can do all kinds of really cool, like you see how this has an aerial antenna to it. So it looks like an old like transistor radio type thing. So the frequencies that you're using, you have to make sure the antenna matches. This length it needs to be about the same frequency as the wireless microphone that you're using. So he's got it extended up too much right now. You would want to actually, in a perfect world, match the length of this antenna, pull it out only enough to match this. That has to do with RF modulation and properly making sure that this microphone picks up only ideally the frequencies within this range. So match the antenna length, and it's going to be giving you the very best possible results.
I'll use their scan.
That closer range, though, it's not going to really be an issue. But that's me, dialing in on something like that. Watch my video on RF right there.
Feature. The big thing after you set wireless mics is turn them up on your mixer and put your headphones on and listen to them.
Absolutely. Always do that. Yes.
Where you just have your headphones on, and you can have your headphones on while you're working on other stuff. You can ask somebody on set to do a mic walk for you, and that just means to take the mic one at a time and walk them around the room just to do like a range test.
Walk them through the set. So wherever the set happens to be. If there's a walk and talk in a hall and it's like these bricks in the background, you want to definitely make sure that you walk it through there. If your antennas are down here and he's using the little whip antennas on his receiver, I don't see him remoting an antenna down the hall or something like that, connecting it to his bag. If he does do that, it would be helpful. But if he's using his little whip antennas, definitely want to walk those transmitters and make sure that they're going to be able to transmit through the walls through the entire walk and talk.
To make sure that it doesn't break apart when you get a little far away. Most of these directors want the mics hidden, and you just have to figure out how to do it.
See, his is right here. It's above the seatbelt, which is good. When I first saw him in the vehicle, the first thing I said is he planting a microphone above? But then all it took was me thinking about the sound that I was hearing, and then I looked down, and there's the little windscreen right there, and there's the microphone. And the fact that he is not moving his chest, he is frozen in place. He hasn't moved, if you've noticed. He doesn't shift around. He's not one of those guys that rocks or anything like that. And the seatbelt, this is one of the danger things that usually will catch people who are new, is running a seatbelt right over a microphone you place on an actor. He placed it a little bit higher than you normally would because it would not be affected by that microphone.
A lot of the ways you can do it include URSA straps, where you can put the mic pack around their body, and then you can hide the mic by either directly placing it on their skin, especially if it's a male. You can.
And Viviana, I will say, Viviana straps are also really, really good. And there are routine videos put out by the Viviana social media, and they show the newest products they have and how to hide a microphone on someone very quickly. And they'll show all kinds of really cool tips and tricks. So check it out. Viviana, Viviana, Viviana. And as a matter of fact, I have a video where I go through some of their Viviana products. And you can check out that video right there if you're interested in seeing some of the Viviana straps and Viviana things. I also have one on Ursa too, but I got sidetracked because this is content creation we're talking about. And so, but they actually give a lot of tips on wireless and stuff like that. I actually do have a wireless course that you can purchase for $100 if you're interested. Just send me an email at alan@soundspeeds.us and I will, I'll tell you how we can make that happen.
Put the mic directly on their skin with like a moleskin adapter and some medical tape, stuff like that. For a female, you can ask them to take the microphone and mic themselves up by affixing it to their brassiere. Clipping it right there on the bra really protects it, because when you're putting microphones underneath shirts, it's very common to have shirt noise and rustling and stuff like that.
And a lot of the times women, they're going to, the way women are naturally built, they have a cavity right here in the front of the shirt that holds out a little bit, which is going to help isolate from any clothing noise that would hit it. So having a lady wire themselves by clipping something onto the bra, by putting an adhesive right there on top of the bra, or clipping something directly to the bra clip, or even, a technique I like involves not even using an adhesive at all. There's a way, there's a couple of different ways, and I talk about in the wireless class that I'm selling. But there are ways of wiring people without even adhesives, especially if they have a bra, because of the way bras are designed, but because of the way that clothing falls against a woman's body. So there's ways of doing it. Men, especially those that have a flatter chest and that have less meat on them, they will sometimes wear more skin tight layers, and you may have a little bit more difficulty getting certain lavs on them with wind protection or something like that. But there are ways of doing it, and I want to hear what he has to say about it.
You got to work together with the wardrobe people.
Absolutely.
Understand exactly what they're going to be wearing. So after I get that all set and I get the wire put on the actor, now it's time to see the scene blocking.
Wait a second. I had to see what he was doing right there. Notice he's got the clip on the outside. So what he did is he put it on the inside of the pants. He's good. He did things the proper way. So You don't put the transmitter on where this little wire clip is on the inside of the clothes against the actor. And then the transmitter is on the outside. The reason why is because if that clip were to break off, you don't want that transmitter to slam and hit the ground. If the clip were to break off and it's in this particular configuration, the transmitter is against the body. And because the transmitter is against the body, it would most likely be held in place by that belt. And if it starts to suddenly slip down here or something like that, he's going to say, whoa, hold on a second, I need to get this thing adjusted. If it falls off on the outside, you're not necessarily going to notice that it's fallen off the body until all of a sudden it yanks the microphone out and it slams and hits the ground along with the transmitter, and suddenly you have a busted transmitter. This is the right way to do it. It also hides better and it's a much cleaner look. People who are looking may not even notice this wire. And if you're curious about it, you can also get with the wardrobe department and see if they have a little bitty you could actually get a piece of material that matches this color and or this material, and you can have them make a little swab of cloth that you could use on the outside and put on there with adhesives if you were that worried about it. But he's going to be wearing an overcoat, pretty sure. If not, at least this is going to pull down there and cover most of it. Just make sure all this is against the body.
Now it's time to see the scene blocking. And you're trying to pick a boom position that is closest to where the actors are and usually close to the camera. Because if you're close to the camera and you're putting your boom out, usually the boom will be easier to hide than if you're coming in from a side.
Yes.
I'm a short guy. I'm only about 5'7" on a good day. So I put my sound bag on a Matthews tray that's mounted to a light stand, and then I use an Apple box to raise me up to get me higher. And I like to make sure that I am physically raised up on an Apple box so that I can use the bag to rest my arms.
Yes. So you can also use an articulated boom or articulated segment, something like that if you wanted to. But notice that what he's doing is he's holding the boom in a more relaxed position. That is very critical. He's actually resting. He's got the stand in front of him, which is what he's talking about with the flat area. He put the bag there because this is a harness. It's going to hold it off of, keep it off of his neck. It's going to transfer the weight to his chest. But still, what he's able to do here is hold the boom relaxed, right here, more at his chest level, as opposed to having to go overhead with it. And if he were on the ground, it would be closer to this height as opposed to this height. So the advantage that he has there is he can come in from a higher angle without having to hold it higher. If you also have a short step ladder or something like that, like a 3 or 4 step, or even if you just have one of those little step stool type things that has like 2 steps and the actual surface that you could sit on. One of those you could stand on and get off the ground too. This is a low camera angle. That's definitely helping him here. These lights do not help him at all. It's directly overhead, and he is having to go around this on the outside. Right now, his shadow is being cast right by this dude's face. But because they're lighting in a very, very annoying way, this is going to present potential problems, because if he tries to swing from here over to here, there's a chance that this light is going to be crossed and his boom is going to shadow this person in the foreground. And if they happen to be in the right-hand side of that frame and you see the shadow whiz across their face, even if it's silhouetted and you see a shadow, in silhouette, it's going to be pretty obvious what it is. Everyone's going to know.
And get some additional stability, especially on these long days. And then I need to make sure I hold the pole in such a way that I can get my hand on the faders when levels need to change. Let's hear some different scenarios where I had to grab the dialogue with the boom.
Audio rolling.
Camera rolling.
Real autism, scene 1L, take 2.
Very, very roomy room.
Happened.
Mira, nothing really. Sometimes this could happen no matter what you do.
I was trying to figure out what that clicking was.
I told you that.
Yes.
I guess that was one of the actors, because I heard a clicking noise, like, snapping.
So like headphones. She wanted them.
I was capturing the act.
Okay, he has to be careful. He has to be careful here. I only see one camera, and that camera is on her. So he's got to protect the on-camera talent. I didn't hear anything in that sounded like he wasn't. But if this girl here started talking and he was still cued at this girl here, he would have missed the on-camera dialogue. You always need to focus on the on-camera dialogue. And if someone who is off camera or, not a priority, don't prioritize them over the on-camera person. Plain and simple. Let's back up a little bit.
Scene 1L, take 2.
Action.
So what happened?
That's the snapping I was talking about. Snap, snap, snap.
Mira, nothing really. Sometimes this could happen.
What?
Mira.
Wait a minute. I want to hear that voice.
So what happened?
So what happened? You hear how roomy she sounds and the microphone sounded farther away? You don't see the camera. I don't know that it was the brunette person that is on camera. I don't know that was her talking. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be because the boom sounds close enough for it to be. But she also sounds off axis and far away. And then instantly the other girl starts talking and the audio stays consistent. So I don't know if that was just a feeder line where she said, okay, in order to get into the scene, and it wasn't actually scripted, like they're going to edit in, and that was just a line that gets it going. To me, if that first thing she said was indeed the person that's on the right-hand side that the camera's on, he would have missed the first line, and that would not be a happy thing.
Mira, nothing really.
I told you that.
Could happen no matter what you do.
Well, she doesn't like noise.
Okay.
Mira. I told you that.
Yes, I know.
Okay, you could hear a total difference in sound quality. I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure, that this girl here is not on a second camera over here. Otherwise, see how this camera is about, 6 feet away from this girl? And she is definitely on camera. There would normally be a matching camera from the same kind of distance, the same focal length, the same size, the same kind of lens, the same camera settings on the other side if they're shooting them at the same time. So I have no idea why the Brian Hansen dude has a boom on her when you can plain as day hear a lav on this girl here. You hear the boom here, you hear the lav here. He should have reversed it.
Well, she doesn't like noise, Mira.
That's a lav.
Yes, I know.
You know.
But she also liked headphones. She wanted them.
I was capturing the actor on the left with a shotgun, and the actor on the right was her lav mic.
Why?
I didn't think to.
This is a conflict of what he said before. He was talking before about the quality of the audio. He was saying the boom is going to sound better. So why in the world did he put the boom on the off-camera person and play the lav? I did a terrible freeze frame on this poor girl. So I don't know why he made that decision. He admitted it. He just got through saying it. I personally find that to be a bad call on his part. Maybe if I hit play, he'll explain why he did that.
Think about it next time, aren't you? Because if it happens again, you're not going anywhere near her.
On this particular scene, I was having a very difficult time getting my lav mics to sound good. I just was not happy with how they were sounding. So I needed to make sure.
That's on this scene where it was overhead with the light in the very middle of the room.
All right, camera rolling.
Sound
Sound is rolling.
slate it. Scene 1T, take 1.
This is such a difficult lighting setup.
Huh? What are we doing? Why are we all here? Day after day after day? What is the point?
Okay, I don't like some of these decisions he's making here. All right. I guess this guy is behind the scenes. Because I don't think that he would be in the right angle. I don't think he would actually position himself here for this kind of shot if that camera was live, especially if that camera is looking down here. I mean, I don't know if he's becoming active at a certain point. That light is making it very difficult. If you have lavs and they are not sounding good, and the people are off camera, or you see their back, or basically you don't see this area right here, put the lav on the outside of the wardrobe. If you want to put down a piece of moleskin or something like that on the outside of their clothing, talk to wardrobe, but then you can put your lav on that if you're concerned about even that being too much. But clipping something, like clipping something onto my shirt right here, would be perfectly acceptable if the person's off camera and you want to try to get some of the off-camera dialogue clean on the lav. If the person's off camera, it doesn't matter what you do and where you put the lav mic. Just make sure that before they go on camera and the camera's not going to swing over to them, you have the lav hidden again.
On this next scene, we're going to look at, we were outside in a parking lot. It was raining a little bit, and we had to record a walk-in scene into a building. So I made sure that I have a good lav on her because, again, it's a wide shot, and I'm running the boom as just a straight backup.
Yeah, so one of the big things you have to be concerned about when it's raining a little bit, the ground is wet. And any shoes that happen to hit a wet ground are going to be more noticeable on a boom and on the lavs than they would be if the ground was dry. Why? Because sound travels differently when something hits a wet ground versus a dry ground. It is going to sound different, it's going to travel different, and it's going to actually pick up more so if the ground is wet.
Audio rolling.
Real autism, 1A.
Action.
He's underbooming there.
I mean, she threw things. She only throws
He's using a lav.
Well, did they trigger her? Well, I don't care if it was for her safety.
You're hearing jingle, jingle, jingle. Hopefully that's something he addresses. You know, you hear, if you listen, you can hear what sounds not really like, it sounds like a zipper. It sounds like a zipper on a coat. And it sounds like it's just, you know, jingling. So listen for that as soon as I hit play again, and you're going to hear it. And that's something I wish he would stick down.
Why'd they leave her alone? No, okay, well, who's with her now?
Should have brought my gloves there. I didn't know we were shooting outside. On this next
He also didn't have a coat on. But that was the biggest thing that was driving me crazy during that sequence, is hearing that what sounded like a zipper. And all it takes is a little piece of Joe's sticky stuff or like two-sided butyl tape of any kind. And all it takes is you just going in on the back of the zipper and putting in there. Actors will not care if you do that. And people in the wardrobe department will be more than happy to do that for you, because when you're walking, you don't need to see the zipper to bounce all over the place for you to say, well, that looks real. If the zipper is staying put, zippers sometimes stay put. So it doesn't like break the illusion or whatever else if you tack the thing down, but it will make a big difference to your sound. You hear that constantly, the jingle, jingle, jingle. That just drove me crazy.
I put lavs on both of the actors because, again, it was a wide shot, and I did make sure my boom was in there to catch the dialogue once they got close to each other.
And he was getting the footsteps before with that, and that's fine. The biggest issue is that you could run into is having so many footsteps from the camera operators and the director and the actors and everybody. It might not just sound like two people.
I was rolling.
Slate.
Real autism, scene 1B, take 2.
Action.
I told you all of that. She doesn't need another form.
You hear that sound again. We're 2 seconds in, and I'm hearing that jingle, 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 jingle. It's so annoying.
What she needs is for you to take care of her like you're supposed to. No, we are talking. I'm here.
I also hear what sounds like the microphone, the lav bouncing up and down. Personally, I think he should have tried a couple of different things. Maybe he did, and just there was no solution that was working well. Maybe they were wearing too many layers, because if you notice, everybody's wearing sweaters and wearing coats and stuff like that. He might even be wearing multiple layers here. But if the actors are wearing multiple layers, get the lav on the outside-most layer, on the inside of the outside-most layer, or try to see if you can hide it someplace where it's peeking out of a buttonhole or something ever so slightly. Something like that where it's not going to be noticed, but it's going to improve your sound tremendously. Again, I have tricks in my lav class that I sell, and those can help you. There's more than one way to wire someone, And personally, I would have done a few different things, and I think I could have gotten better results than what he's getting right now. And it might have even happened before take one.
Ma'am.
I'm Rachel. I'm Michaela's mom. I need to go in there.
Ma'am, before you go in, please remember to calm down.
I am calm.
Okay. There are different ways of mixing. I don't want to sound like a jerk toward Brian. I do like what he's doing. I do like how he's presenting things. But I think he's making a few mistakes here, and he's making them more rapidly right now because he's one man banding a movie. He is the sound mixer and he's the boom operator. And I think what he is doing is he is sacrificing some things that are more important than other things. For example, there is no one there he's booming right now. I don't think that the actors, I mean, the boom is not going to be used for anything if he's that far away and this is a wide shot like he said it was. So at this point, I would concentrate more on trying to make sure that the mix track is done correctly. I'm hearing him switch faders up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't do that. That's a very drastic move. It changes the background noise tremendously. The best mixers I've ever heard bring up tracks and they try to drop, kind of like you would if you were doing Do Good Auto Mix or something like that, how it gain shares. But if this person is talking and you bring in another actor, you lower it ever so slightly when you bring the next person in there. Or you keep them up. You can, if you want to, keep them up more at the same level, but you will probably have to listen for your background noise. The best mixers I know mix to the proper background noise level. They don't mix and just toss faders. If you toss faders, it sounds very amateurish. It sounds like things just change constantly in the background. And that is one of the reasons why post people are redoing mix tracks constantly. They don't use the mix track anymore for anything other than the dailies. Because people don't know how to mix this day and age. You can't just toss faders. You can't just twist knobs up and down. And he's doing it from one hand while holding the boom out there. If the boom is not actually booming talent actively, don't use it. Concentrate on your mix. On a wide shot, you need to make sure you have a good mix track of something, and if you are booming somebody, make sure the boom is going to take priority if it's on the on-camera talent, and then have the other level up. And then as soon as the person walks away, bring it back down. And then as someone comes in, bring it up. And if you need to make little adjustments because someone's louder or quieter than the other, do that. But if you're doing a one-man band thing like this, you bring people up and let it just play wide open. If you're going to play with the boom or whatever else, because you have no script, that you have no idea what you're following. There is a script on this show. But he is one man banding this thing. He's got to make a good quality mix track. And anytime you do big fader movements, those are distractions.
On these film sets, I'm always reminded of how important it is to network as a freelancer. It's always a good idea to bring business cards with you if you can, to hand out.
I don't have a business card. I haven't had one ever in the film industry.
You're following each other on socials, because sometimes it's hard to find people on socials.
Yeah, that's actually something, especially on the smaller shows, you always end up saying, hey, can I get your information? Or what do you have going? One of the most common questions you ask on the last couple of days of the show is, hey, what you working on next? Because the person may say, I'm working on this. Actually, we're looking for a sound person. What are you doing? And you say, hey, I'm not doing anything. Let's talk. And can you give me the information of the person? Or they can say, and that's one of the big questions you start asking when you're getting near the end of a show. Or if it's only a few days shoot, ask them from the very beginning, is this the kind of stuff you work on? Yeah, you work on this kind of stuff a lot. You got another one lined up after this? Do you know if they have a sound department? Things like that, because that's how you get a show. If you're working on a multiple month-long thing, don't ask until you get close to the last 2 or 3 weeks of the show. Or if it's a big feature or a big TV show or something like that, ask a good month and a half out, because they're probably not hired their sound department yet, and you might be able to get in there a little bit on the early side. So things like that do help a whole lot. So he's absolutely right. Networking and being social is totally critical if you're a freelancer.
Before you leave the set, if there's anybody that you want to find, just ask them what their handles are so you can follow them. because networking is so important. One of the values
100% right.
realize is really important as a freelancer is how many people you know and how many people know you. Because if people don't remember you and don't have an ability to refer you,
You're not going to get the
it's
work.
going to be a lot harder for you to build a freelance career.
Yeah.
A lot of the referrals in freelance come from other working professionals.
That's right.
That are also freelance.
He's right.
I've gotten some of the best jobs referred to me from DPs and gaffers and grips and directors that talk to other people on other sets and say, hey, do you know a good sound guy?
That's right. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, especially on lower budget shows and smaller freelance things, a lot of people know camera people. A lot of people will, like a director will say, oh yeah, I know a DP and he has all the lighting people taken care of. Anybody know a sound guy? Because a lot of the times sound people are one of those things that you don't normally think of until the last minute, or at least some people don't. Or they won't hire until the last minute. They won't hire until like a week before the show. There's been times I haven't been hired on a show until like 2 days before the thing starts. It's like, you're contacting us now? Yes, load in is tomorrow. So you're hired. Okay, well, it's 6 p.m. today. What time is the Teamster going to come to get our stuff tomorrow? 7 a.m., right? Sure, meet us at the storage unit then. And we've done that kind of thing before. It's crazy, but it does happen. They'll hire the DP and the grips and lighting and script supervisor and everybody weeks in advance. The sound department, it's almost like, okay, well, we're going to be starting this. Did we get a sound guy? Happens.
And that is often how my name gets out there. It's really important to just bring everything you can to every shoot. Bring your best attitude, bring your best skills. And honestly, it is the people on sets that are the most likable and friendly and easy to work with that are oftentimes the people that you refer the most.
That's right, because you're going to be working with these people for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, and no one wants to be next to a jerk. People would much rather work with someone, even if you have the most talented house MD level sound person there is, and then you have someone who is not quite as good, but they're pleasant, you're going to choose the pleasant person all day long. You're going to, and it's going to make the entire show and experience much better. You are with these people that you work with on set more so than you're in longer amounts of the day and longer amounts of time of the week than your own family. You would much rather prefer to be near people that you can stand to be with. And that's exactly what he's talking about here, is bring your best attitude, bring a good personality. He's not saying bring your entire studio garage and everything and have it all in a big van that's, 28 feet long with a 28 foot long trailer being pulled by your pickup truck. He's not saying do that. Obviously, make sure you have enough for the gig and make sure you're getting rental on it. But what he's referring to is you as a person. Every single day, every single job, you are auditioning to keep that job. You are auditioning for your next job. And there's a phrase, you're only as good as your last day on the show. But I'll tell you this, by the last day of the show, it's a little bit too late if you're a jerk. They're going to already know that you're not the person they want to work with ever again.
Because sometimes it doesn't even matter technically how good you are. It just matters, were you an easy person to work with?
Oh, he's saying the same things I just got through saying.
Were you grumpy? Stuff like that. So,
and a lot of your sound people are grumpy.
Know that, again, this freelance life takes time. It takes patience. It takes continued energy. You've got to grind it out for a long time before you can find some results.
He's so right.
With it, make sure that you don't give up and make sure that you are just ready for the long haul. It takes years to build a career, and I just want you to know that you can do it. You can be successful as a freelancer, and I'll see you in the next one.
He is exactly right. It's something that you can spend weeks, years, however long trying to build a career and it won't work. Or you could do it for, nonstop every single day for weeks. And then all of a sudden, one little bitty thing happens and you suddenly take off and you're one of the big boys. And that's why it's always so important to be on the ball, on your game every single day and be fully prepared. There have been shows I've been on where we have been 100% the entire show. But then after lunch on the last day, when we are working with the minors, when we're working with number one was a minor on this particular situation, we ended up having the hard drive crash. And the sound mixer was not expecting the hard drive crash to happen and had already moved stuff over because I think that was the show was finishing on a Monday because they added a day or something like that. So the sound mixer that weekend had taken a lot of stuff back into storage. So on the last day, we ended up having a hard drive go down, and it was like 2 hours away one way from his house. And he was like, do we know anybody else that has one of these Zaxcom hard drives on this side of town? And we ended up finding somebody. But I tell you, it was not pleasant because the producers and everybody knew that the child was going to turn pumpkin after a certain amount of time. And they were concerned about finishing the show because they had a whole bunch of actors and certain crew members and producers and stuff like that with airplane flights either that night or the following morning. And they were like, this is going to cost us a lot. And unfortunately, that ended up costing the sequel of that movie. And when the sequel of that particular movie came back, I remember hearing through the grapevine that the DP and some of the camera department stuff were bad-mouthing me in addition to the mixer and some of the other people. And the reason why is because they were associating me and everybody with the last day of the show. And because the mixer made some calls that dragged the whole day out, and because of the technical delay, the technical issue and stuff like that, and it took a little while to get things going again. They weren't happy with the mixer, and then they weren't happy with me by proxy, even though I did nothing wrong. And it's like I was hearing some of the stories when they came back for the next movie. I'm like, I never said that. I never did that. I wasn't that way. What are you talking about? And there's like, it didn't sound much like you, but that's what they were saying. I'm like, oh, those are lies. Those are lies, and they're lies just like they do. But unfortunately, I'm only as good as my last day after lunch. And unfortunately, I was grouped in with the rest of the sound department, and that was a very rough after lunch. So there you go. But overall, I'd say this video, he got a lot of things right. He's got a lot of good information to share. Good information to share to the world. So I would say if you go to his channel, he's probably got a lot of really good information on there. As with anything, even this channel, take what you hear with a grain of salt. But at the same time, you're going to probably learn something if you join this guy's channel. And if you do go and watch some of his videos, make sure you say hello. I saw I heard from you from SoundSpeeds or something like that. Tell them, hey, whatever, show them the love. So anyway, thank you for tuning in to this episode of SoundSpeeds. And remember, this was our 8-year anniversary episode. I appreciate you watching.